Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet a man who is doing life-saving work in Ukraine. It's a heart-tugging show you're not going to want to miss. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to watch television when stories come on about Ukraine. It's just so heart-wrenching to see those images, and especially when it impacts kids in Ukraine. To talk about that today, Marcum Davis, he is with Abundance International. Thank you for coming on the show.
It's my joy. I'm just happy to share more of the stories that aren't being told elsewhere and to let people know what's going on.
Okay, first of all, an overview. What does Abundance International do?
Abundance International has been working with orphanages in Ukraine since 2012. And it really started, you asked me earlier how this began. I had family there and was on business, and we said, how can we just give back to the community? Literally walked into an orphanage and said, what can we do for you guys? And they said, well, who are you? And it just began building a relationship of trust, and it took off. You know, we fell in love with it. I started calling my business associates back home, said, hey, I've got a nonprofit, let's really do this. We started building ICU units, we started providing food, diapers. And the first 2 orphanages we adopted in Mykolaiv and in Kherson were all from newborn to 4-year-olds. We built ICU units, birthing centers, and the joy was being able to go there and make a delivery and then hold these little kids in your lap. And it's so sad not to be able to do that today because we're just focusing on really life and death issues, so we don't have that luxury.
Let's talk about the early days of the war. Were you there when it broke out?
Of course. I've lived there for the last 8 years. On the morning, it was 5:30 a.m. I'll never forget being rocked out of bed with the sound of the explosions. And I got to tell you honestly, after living there, most of us and even the pundits in Europe were thinking it's not really going to happen. We've seen this since before 2014, that it's usually a show of power, and we didn't think it'd really happen. But the moment it hit, they blew up the airport, and even though it was on the other side of the river, we knew it was on. And I'll never forget, within a half hour, I went to my office and made this famous 1-minute, 24-second video to tell everybody connected with us, it's really happening.
Wow. You have done dozens and dozens of interviews, including one on CNN recently. I know you have become really an ambassador, putting a spotlight on an issue that the media hasn't paid a lot of attention to, the kids.
That's correct.
And tell me why do you do this?
It's our love. It's been what we've been doing. And it's like when your family is in trouble and they're in harm's way, of course you want to step up. I've had a lot of people ask me, why didn't you get out? I mean, you knew the war was coming. At least a lot of people back home were saying that. You should have gotten out, and especially once it hit. And my response was, you don't understand. It's like, I cannot fathom the thought of me being at home watching on a big screen TV the news reports while I knew that the people we loved and the employees we had and everybody else were sitting there suffering through it. So it was a no-brainer decision to stay. And the other thing is, I wanted to be able to look back a year later and be able to say, I'm really proud of what I did. And God had me there for such a time as this, and there's something I'm supposed to do. So every single day was different. I mean, if you watch through, we have the first, I think, 15 or 20 days, I tried to do a daily journal of what was happening every day. And it just got to be too much. And then plus, we just had confidentiality issues. We're helping people in sensitive places. We didn't know how the information is being used. But watch those on the website, at abundanceinternational.org, because some days it was gas. The gas stations were emptied within a week. Everybody panicked, they filled up, and so we had to go contact the owners of a station to say, can you let us have the reserves? We had the next day we had to get food. The kids had 5 days left of food supplies, and so we go to the grocery store. This is what the stories don't tell you. That's why I love these people so much. We would go to the grocery stores, and people are waiting in line for an hour to try to get, not knowing if they're going to run out of food. And we'd say we're there at the orphanage, and people have been waiting more than an hour in line to check out. They say, please go ahead of us. We were at the hospital one time trying to get some medicine because these kids were on special needs. And about a third of the kids in orphanage are dropped off because the parents don't want to raise a special needs child, Down syndrome, physical handicap. And so we were at the hospital trying to get some medications, and the military was there, the Ukrainian military. They heard we're from the orphanage. They went out of their own supply and gave us 200 pounds of potatoes from their rations.
Wow.
And it's like, these aren't the stories anybody's telling. I love the resilience and the generosity of the regular people in Ukraine that I've known and lived with for all these years. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you can even hear the tremble in his voice. I love your social media, Marcum. You keep posting wonderful videos. This is one of my favorites.
All right, I want to show you what the kids have to live with. They have a whole orphanage upstairs. When the siren go off, you got to imagine it's happening so frequently. They've had to create a duplicate orphanage underground. Take a look. The number of houses, the number of beds that are here all across the floor. I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but that's the toilet. This becomes the exercise and playroom here. Mats on the floor, boxes of toys against the wall. And as we deal with the littler kids, we come into other areas where they have cribs and other things to play in. And then, of course, for the smaller ones, what they have to do to make do is remarkable. Imagine anything we can do to make the kids' lives as good as possible under these circumstances means a lot from all of us. Thanks for being part of this.
Who's that? You guys see it? Look.
They are so precious. I worry about their mental health. Let's talk about that. You can get food in their belly, you can keep them warm. Are you concerned about how they will deal with this in the years to come?
Of course. It was only in about the third day of the war, and the doctor who ran the orphanage for us in Mykolaiv, she said that's the first thing I can already tell. It's going to be trauma for these kids to mentally adjust. And at that time, the only adjustment they really have to deal with, and of course, this was at the what we call the baby house orphanage, 0 to 4 years old, is that every day you can't explain to a child what the air raid siren is, what the sound of artillery is, what the sound of an explosion is. But more importantly, why the people that they're entrusted to are panicked, and why they're grabbing kids, and every time the air raid siren goes off, they're supposed to run them downstairs into one of these, bomb shelters. And so the trauma that they're feeling is like, what's going on? Why is everybody freaking out? And over time, the staff, who are the frontline workers, and God bless them, they've done so much to try to create as much a sense of calm and normalcy for the kids to adjust. And they stayed. And so many could get out and did, and we've had to replace staff as well. But to try to create normalcy for these children is a top priority. And right now, the older kids are in school. We're trying to do the best we can. We can't even assess what the mental damage is going to be until this thing is far over. We're having to take a step back and say, okay, now let's try to help assess their mental health as well.
Let's talk about keeping them warm, because it's been much publicized on the news that Putin is really trying to break the resolve of the Ukrainian people by freezing them out.
I can't speak to the political sides and what the purpose is. All I can do is what we're given, we have to adjust to. And so it was about a month and a half ago we started thinking ahead on some of this. We started buying the first coal. And the reason you buy coal is that if you have the heating system out in a building, these are these old former Soviet style construction, thick stone walls, pipes going through it. If you've seen those furnace looking heaters, right? They're run by gas, but their gas is all regulated by electrical systems to send it. So if you have electricity down, you can't even heat the building. But they have alternatives to run a gas and coal burning fuel to be able to do that. So we've been buying gas powered generators for electricity and also coal. We got a couple of tons of coal, but the requirement is going to be extensive. And of course, to run entire orphanages, and especially now that people are figuring out they're going to need to do that, the stockpiling is going to be an issue. We had a situation about 2 or 3 years ago with the Kherson orphanage before we updated their heating system prior to the war. And they had not updated it since the 60s. And we didn't realize this until they told us, because they got used to it. Every winter, they were moving all the kids to the upper floor of the orphanage because the lower floor was 60 degrees. It wasn't tolerable to function. Wow. And so not only are you going to have a heating issue, but then even if you bundle the kids like Eskimos to keep them warm through the cold, you got to cook.
Right.
You have to. There's so many other things that are involved in this. And of course, we're going to do everything we can, and we have so many great stories of what we've been able to do that nobody would have imagined, because necessity is the mother of invention. I'm so proud of our entire team there in Ukraine, and we're only here now because we can't travel there anymore. We stayed for first 6 months, going everywhere over the country, but now because of fuel, your chance of getting stuck between cities is hard. So we've set up the remote networks there so we can get them things and they can get it locally. But we hear every day. We just talked yesterday to orphanages in Kherson, and we have 5 orphanages we cover. 2 of them are just dedicated to the handicapped, mentally, special needs kids, and they aren't getting out. And so they also can't just go to their local grocery stores to get supplies. The Russians have ransacked it, and the pharmacies are down. We have had to do the most amazing stories. Just in short, we've even had some people who could get the pharmacy stuff from Russian, Ukrainian citizens still in Crimea come across into Kherson to help deliver. We've had local citizens who just have a little garden in their backyard, or we've gone to the orchard growers who can't sell anymore, or to butcher fishermen, and they have poured themselves into helping make sure these kids are taken care of. And the largest orphanage that we've housed had to distribute the kids because the Russians were going to take over. They wanted all of our staff fired. And so what we did is we created our own foster care system there. We literally got 56 kids into local homes, local families. Wow. And then what we've done as AbundanceInternational.org and our team is we've been able to then supply care packages to give them a month's worth of food and care for each of those families. And this is the work we're doing right now.
And I love it that you put a face on this this situation. On his Facebook, I urge you to go there. You can see just dozens of pictures like these. What are we looking at right now?
This is in Venezia. In fact, if you remember the video we just looked at where I was walking underground, that whole orphanage facility underground was dirt before. We got everything there to facilitate it. These particular children in this room are part of that special needs in Venezia, and they can't be moved. I mean, they're literally on feeding tubes and these kind of things, so they take a chance that if a missile hits there, that's going to be an issue for them. The previous photo, those group of kids were actually in Kherson. This one is in Mykolaiv, and this one did go for surgery to repair the cleft palate. We've done surgeries for kids, heart surgeries, so many different things. And I tell you, one of the things, the unsung heroes of this is the love of the American people, because we are not funded by a government. We're not funded by big corporate sponsors. Our average donation is $94. And that will take care of a child for a month. All the meals, the diapers, things we need will take care of one child for a month. If our average donation, imagine that, is $94, you understand this is just a grassroots effort by people who just want to help. Right. And it warms my heart that many people have poured out to help us to expand from 2 orphanages to 22 that we've touched in these first 8 months of the war.
And they just uploaded a bunch of pictures on their main website, AbundanceInternational.org. And some of these images are just heart-wrenching to see these amazing kids who are going through something that's absolutely unthinkable, isn't it?
It's not their fault. They don't deserve this. They deserve to grow up like normal kids, and we're doing our best to give them a normal upbringing, to come across healthy, and that's everyday changes, it seems, but we believe we can keep ahead of it and keep doing what we can to make sure they come out of this alive and as unscathed as humanly possible.
Sure. We've got about a minute left. I'd love you to talk to the viewer and tell them why they need to donate.
I want to tell you I love you because it's this partnership we've had, and I really hope if you'll give anything, you'll become part of our list, you'll get our emails, you'll see what we do. But you're there with us. This is not a big corporate thing. We're not a huge, we're supported by companies, governments, or anything else. And because of that, we're able to get the work done. But you are directly involved in trying to help change and save lives. This is nothing I could do by myself, but because of so many people, we've had around 10,000 people give since the war started, and all of you have made that difference. And I thank you, and I love you. I feel your energy and partnership with me, and I want you to feel yourself there in Ukraine with these kids. And in the outcome, you're going to see the blessed results, and I just wish you blessings for all the giving you do. Thank you so much. And of course at the site at abundanceinternational.org, there's a donate button, several ways to give, whatever works easiest for you. But most of all, I just want to say thank you for partnering with us. And there's never been a time in history I can think of like this that I've had to experience. But together we just do what we can.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do and saving
Jeff.
lives. And we're going to end with the website, which again, abundanceinternational.org. Please go there. Please donate. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.